So now that you know the philosophy, let's talk a little bit about the resources that you have available to you as you make this transition to professional thought. First of all, I'm your main resource for this class. It is online and it is asynchronous, which means you get to download all of the lectures and the labs and do them as you wish on your own time, as long as you meet the deadlines. But still, I'll be here and I will be having office hours. We'll talk about that here in a moment. But also, I will be on campus. Now, at least at the beginning of this term, the COVID-19 epidemic is still operating, and so you won't be able to see me at least until October. Hopefully by October, we will allow students onto the campus. But at this point in time, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So, I do, however, have an office there, so if it is possible to get onto campus at some point later in the semester, my office is in the Natural Science Building, NS, and NS 113. If you want to call me, you can try calling me here, but it's difficult sometimes. For whatever reason, this phone doesn't always forward messages, so the best way to contact me is through these two emails. This is my email at Scottsdale, and this is my email here at ASU. You can use either one, is fine. You can also just use Canvas. If you want, you can, that's probably the easiest thing when you're in Canvas, just use the Canvas messaging system to contact me, and that's fine. Like I said, there are office hours that will be available for you. Every week I will have 2 face-to-face office hours, and I will send out information about how to come in. We'll use either WebEx or Zoom, and I will give you that information of how to get into that meeting, and they are not required, but they're strongly recommended. If you want, you can just come in and ask questions. You can hang out and listen to the questions and answers. I will not lecture at those times, but I will be giving information about things through questions, and if there aren't a lot of questions but people just generally want me to go over something, I can certainly do that too. But I'll be doing that twice a week, but the other 2 days I will be available via email if you want at a particular time. Those times will be established and I will send those out to you very shortly. You can contact me via email at that time, and if you want, we can set up a Skype or Zoom or something like that, and we can meet that way. So all of those things will be available to you. In addition to me, you also have an excellent textbook that is written by Freeman and a number of other scientists. It's one of the best books out there. It's expensive, I'm sorry. But the one that we are using is the 6th edition. There is a 7th. We're not using that one, but if you buy it, it probably will work just fine. Probably the 5th edition will also work just fine. So if you want to get any of those, that's perfectly fine. However, the syllabus and the schedule is set up for the 6th edition. So if you have the 7th or the 5th, then as you go, you might have difficulty finding out exactly what it is that I want you to read based on what the syllabus schedule says is the reading assignment for that day. Now, if that becomes a problem, it's really not a big deal. Just contact me, ask me which sections of the different book you should read, and I can tell you. If you do have a 4th edition or an older edition, that probably will not support the course. There have been a number of updates in the 6th edition, in particular in the 5th edition as well, that we actually really need, especially these things called bioskills. And I refer to those quite a bit during the class. So you need to have a book that has the bioskills in it, and that's the 5th, 6th, and 7th editions. In addition, you'll need a calculator. We're going to do a fair amount of mathematics in this class. Modern science uses mathematics. Now, the mathematics we're using is not calculus, it's not linear algebra, it's not anything really all that fancy, but you do definitely need a calculator to be able to do some computations. And it will have to be a scientific calculator. It needs to be a calculator that can do logarithms and exponents and things like this. And if you wish, you can use a TI-83 or 84 or 85 or 86. Any of those TI-80 series are perfectly fine. You may not want to use an app on your phone, and the reason is that when you take your exams, you will not have your phone available to you. The exams are going to be given through the Respondus Lockdown browser, which I'll explain here very shortly. So you want a dedicated calculator. The TI-80 series is rather expensive. They're approaching $100. If you don't want to spend that kind of money, you can pick up a Casio for $12 that does everything that you need to do. Anyway, it must be a scientific calculator though. It has to especially have logarithms, the ability to take logarithms. In addition, there's a website. And the website I'll talk about here very shortly. The website really is the main part of the course. It integrates with the Canvas site, but the basic material for the entire course, the online course, is actually going to be given on the website. And you've probably already gotten to the website since the introductory video that I gave you walks you through that. So it's a good thing if you haven't done that, make sure you go to that welcome video, the one that pops up on the welcome page, and it'll show you how to get to this website and the kinds of things that are there, but I'll go through that very shortly. As a matter of fact, I will show you the web page right now. Here it is. If you have already gotten into this video, you've probably already seen this, but just in case, if you need to get to this web page here, this is the main course web page, Bio 181. This is my teaching activities, and you can see it's got a number of other things that I'm doing, but Bio 181 is your page right here. So you can type in the URL into your browser that was on the previous screen on the slide, or you can go to Canvas and click on the link. And when you get there, here are the kinds of things you'll be able to find on this web page. Again, all of the course material really is going to be here. Now, there's an announcement page, which I'll put announcements on here. If I put an announcement here, I will always double it on Canvas. So either one is fine. You're going to get your main announcements in both locations. If you want to go to the other resources that we have available for you at Bio 181, click on this Bio 181 link right here, click on it, and it gives you a drop-down menu. The syllabus is here, and again, you've already probably done that and looked through the syllabus. That's probably why you are in the position that you're in and watching this video. But again, it would be a good idea for you, if you've not done this, to go ahead and click on this. It'll take you to our syllabus for this semester, and you notice the syllabus has a lot of information, the information I'm going over here, plus a bunch of new information as well. So please make sure you read all of this. This is very critical that you understand exactly what's going on in this class, because by taking this class you are saying legally, this is the document that I'm going to follow, and I'm going to follow it as well. I'm required to as well. So as you can see, it has all the course policies laid out, which I'm just outlining in this video. And in addition, this is probably the most useful page right here. It has all of the schedule, the entire schedule for the course. So the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, and then it's got your lecture title. It's got the due date for the quiz for the lecture, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And then it's got the laboratory, which we'll also talk about here in a moment. But this is how it basically is set up. Now, if we look at this at the biggest level, the biggest picture, you'll see that this schedule is broken into 4 pieces, and each piece ends with an exam. So the first one is the first 4 weeks, the second is the next 4 weeks, next 4 weeks, and the next 4 weeks. So each 4-week block is what I call a unit. And this unit is the theoretical foundations of biology. This unit is transmission genetics. The third unit is molecular genetics, and the fourth unit is cell biology. Now, the fourth unit ends in the final exam, but all the others end in a midterm exam. Midterm exam simply means they occur in the middle of the term. So each one of these lectures is meant to be done in these weeks. So for example, this lecture is to be done in the first week. The second lecture is to be done in the second week. The second lecture is to be done in the first week as well. The third and fourth lectures are to be done in the second week, and so forth. So this really isn't an on your own time or at your own pace kind of a class. You need to work at the speed at which this syllabus has laid out. And the reason you have to do that is because these quizzes are due on these dates. So the quiz for today's lecture, the quiz for the introductory lecture, the one that I'm talking about right now, is going to be due on Wednesday. And that is coming up very quickly. It's the third day of class. It has to be done by midnight on the date listed here. And it will close at that time, on midnight, and it will not reopen. So it's required that you do it in that time frame. And then the next one will be due Friday. And you notice that will tend to be the way these work out. They go early in the week, typically Tuesday. The first one is Wednesday because it's first week. And then the next one is Friday. On Saturday, you'll have a laboratory due, and then there will be occasionally tests. For example, the first midterm exam is due on September 15th, Tuesday at midnight. It will open the previous midnight. So this exam will be open for 24 hours on that Tuesday. It must be taken on that day. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as the class comes up. But that's the way the exams always work. The exams will open on the day that they're listed here. For example, the second exam will be on October 16th, the third exam will be on November 13th, and the final exam must be taken on December 17th. Now, if for some reason you cannot take the exams on those days, contact me and we'll see if we can find some other sort of accommodation. But those accommodations are hard to come by because it's required on those days for a reason. And we'll talk about that reason later on in the course, but that's how this is going to work. So make sure you keep up with this. This is going to push to make sure that we stay on top of everything. We cannot leave all of this to the end. There's no way that we can learn and master the material that a professional needs to master, the level at which a professional needs to work and master this at, by just leaving it all to the end and procrastinating and then trying to slam it all at the end. That's not the way a professional operates. That's not how we're going to operate. So keep up with this schedule. Make sure you know it, and there's no excuse for not knowing it. Let me repeat that. There's no excuse for not knowing this schedule. So make sure you know exactly what the schedule is. Plan your time. You know everything that's due now all the way up through December 17th. Plan your time around that, and we will work at that pace. And again, any kind of questions you have, any sorts of problems that you have as things are going, contact me. If you have difficulty understanding material, contact me. Contact the tutor centers and the other resources, which I'll talk about later on. But make sure you keep up with this pace. Okay, don't let things sit. Okay, so that's the basic way that the syllabus is scheduled. Also then, there are other things in the syllabus which we are going to talk about again very shortly here. But what I'd like to do is to take us back to here and just talk a little bit more about the website. You'll also notice that we have every lecture laid out here, and the lectures are laid out in the same way that I had mentioned in the introductory video. We have the topic here. When you click on one of these, like for example the next lecture after this one, we'll click on it as an example. This is lecture 1.2. It'll take us to this page, and this page will give us an overview, which is just telling you a little bit about what the lecture is going to be about. Now notice I've changed something from the introductory video here a little bit. I've gotten rid of the deadline because the deadline is laid out in the syllabus. So make sure you follow that deadline in the syllabus. Here are the activities. So for this particular lecture, you have things to read, you have things to look at and navigate to, and then you have videos to watch, and then you have an assessment, which is the quiz. And that's the way all the lectures will work. The lectures will lay out a reading assignment for you. It will lay out usually some other sort of activity for you to do, videos for you to watch, and then the quiz to complete. Okay, and that's how the lectures are all organized. In addition, we have laboratories. The laboratory I'll talk a little bit more about as we go, but there are going to be a total of 12 laboratories here. Now this one right now is listed only as 11 because I have 2 of them combined. I'm going to split those and make 12. But the laboratories are more involved, and they're going to take 3 to 5 hours. Okay, so let that sink in. Every laboratory is going to take between 3 and 5 hours to complete. Each laboratory can be done at home. They're safe. Sometimes you may have to go out and buy materials, but those materials can be obtained at any grocery store, drugstore. Nothing dangerous, and it's a very straightforward sort of a process. So you don't have to get any specialty material or anything like that to complete the laboratories. But the laboratories are fairly intensive, and that's where a lot of our learning takes place. So there will be a lot of effort that has to go into these laboratories. The laboratory schedule is also available on the syllabus page. So if we go here and click on the syllabus page, it'll take us to the laboratory schedule right here. And the laboratory schedule shows you when each lab is due. And notice they're always due on Saturday. Right? So every week you'll have a lab due on a Saturday. There are a couple of weeks where there are no labs, and those are listed in the main syllabus schedule. So you get a break about every month, but pretty much 3 out of every 4 weeks in a month you're going to be handing in a 3 to 5 hour laboratory on Saturday. Okay? So make sure again you plan for all of that. And I'll go through again the details of these things here as we go. There are other reading assignments in addition to your book that are expressed or suggested in the lectures, and these reading assignments can be found on this page. For example, on the very first lecture, it tells you to read the Baloney Detection Kit and Tools of Science and start looking at that. There's some other handouts as well that you can use. All of those are available there. And we also are going to skip, for the online version of the class, we skip this section, the research presentation, but there will also be times when I will post lab data, and when I do that, I'll post it on this page here where it says lab data. Right? And that is going to be a situation where you can just come and download the data and use it for the laboratories to complete them. And then there's this online virus, which we are probably not going to use this semester. But that's the way that this web page is set up. Okay, so let's talk now about the grading policies for the class. As I mentioned, we were taking a look at the web page. There are 3 ways you're going to earn points: exams, quizzes, and laboratories. Now, every single lecture that we have in this class has an associated quiz, and that quiz is going to be worth 10 points. Every single time be worth 10 points. Now, the times that you have to have the quizzes done is midnight on the day listed on the syllabus. The quizzes are difficult. They're not little throw-off things to do quickly. These are things that are meant to help you work through the notes and work through the lecture so that you can really truly master it. That's our goal here. We're not just trying to learn superficially. We need to master this material so that we can take it with us when we continue on. So the quizzes are meant to help you go through the lecture in detail and pick up those details that you're going to need as you continue on in your studies. So this might be a little different than what you're used to. Sometimes you'll have quizzes that sort of solidify things, but these are going to go into depth. And in particular, you're going to be seeing questions that are asking for many different possible answers, and you have to mark all of the correct ones. Now, that has been shocking to some students in the past, so I just want to warn you. There is a purpose for this. It is to, again, work through that material as carefully and as detailed as you possibly can. That's the whole point of mastery. So I'm going to give you 3 shots at every quiz, 3 attempts. Now, after you take the 3rd attempt, it'll lock out. The quiz will lock out, so you won't be able to take it more. But of those 3 attempts, the highest score will be the one that's recorded. Now, the strategy for these quizzes is this: work through the lecture a day or 2 days, even better, 2 days before the quiz is due. Go ahead and get through that lecture at least 2 days before the quiz is due. Get started on it. Take notes. While you're watching the video, take notes as if you're in lecture. That's the best approach. The best approach is to treat it as if you're actually sitting in a room with me lecturing to you. Now, as we go through, write down the notes, and you can look at the study guides. And every single lecture, if you'll notice on the lecture page, has a study guide. So have the study guide with you as you're watching the lectures, and write the answers to the questions on the study guide. Then, when you take the quiz, you can have the study guide next to you, and that'll help you work through the quiz much more rapidly. And one of the things that's interesting about Canvas, that I really like about Canvas, is that it gives me data about how it is that students approach these problems. And here's what I can tell you. If you want to be successful, act like the previous students before you who were successful. I can tell you what they did. They take quizzes early. The students who struggle are the students who take the quiz the first time 3 or 4 hours before it's due. The students who do well are the students who take it 2 or 3 days the first time before it's due. So there's the solution. It's easy. Get on top of it, plan your time, and work through those quizzes the day before it's due at the very latest. And then you have plenty of time if you're struggling with something and you're having trouble figuring out what the answer is going to be. So that's the approach. Treat it like it's an in-class sort of class. Take notes while you're going through the lectures. Use those study guides. Go through all of that, and then take the quiz. That's your best approach. So that's the quizzes. Each one, like I said, is 10 points. I'm going to drop the lowest, and that one then is going to give you, actually I'm going to drop 2 lowest, and that's going to give us a total of 260 points. And again, the quizzes are due when they're due. There are no late quizzes. I will not open a quiz after it shuts down. So that's something you have to keep in mind. And again, our goal is mastery, so we want to keep up with this, and we want to get on it and work on these things as quickly as possible. Okay, so the quizzes are one thing. About 260 points are going to come out of the quiz. Now, the exams, as I'd mentioned before, there's 3 midterm exams and 1 final. Midterm exams are a little bit different than the final. The format is generally the same. All 3 of the midterm exams are going to include multiple choice questions, some problems like genetics problems and other kind of mathematics problems, and short answer where you have to write a paragraph or two. Each one of these is worth 100 points, and I'm going to drop the lowest of the three. So in total here, we're getting 200 points out of this exam, out of these three exams. Because I'm dropping one of the exams, there will be no makeup exams. So if for some reason you miss an exam, then that will be the exam that ends up being dropped. Okay, so you're safe there. You have no worries there. If you miss an exam for whatever reason, it's not going to hurt you. Now, if you know you're going to miss the exam, if you know you won't be able to take the exam on the day that's listed on the syllabus, contact me, and we'll try to work out some sort of accommodation that's fair to everyone. And remember, that's the doctrine that I have to follow, fairness to everyone. So that's why the policies are the way they are. So we have to work that out so that there's no advantage or disadvantage that you would suffer or gain by taking it at a different time. Okay, but again, there are no makeup exams. So whatever accommodation we need to work out, it's got to happen before the exam, because again, I drop one exam. If for some reason a student misses 2 exams, that's far too much material that is missed, and there's no way that we can confer credit from SCC into Bio 181 from a student who misses 2 exams. So that student would be withdrawn at that point. So make sure you don't miss more than 1 exam. If you do miss any, the best thing is not to miss any. Okay, so when we get to the exams, I will talk about the Respondus Lockdown browser. I'll talk about the other procedures, but here's the basic procedure. With the Lockdown browser, it will set up a lockout for your computer, and so you can only work on the exam. You won't have access to the internet. You won't have access to any other programs through your computer as you're taking it. You'll also have to show me the environment that you're taking the exam in, and I will basically be proctoring the exam, and if anything goes wrong, or if there's any sort of failure to follow the exam policies, the student who does that gets a 0 on that exam. Okay, so we will talk more about that as the time comes. But those are the 3 midterm exams. All right, now the final exam is a little bit different. The final is required. Everybody must take it, and it cannot be dropped. It's worth 200 points. And it also, in addition to the multiple choice problems and short answer questions, it also has 2 very large essays. And those essays are multiple paragraph types of essays. They're not necessarily formal 5-paragraph essays, but they are going to be multiple paragraph essays. So everyone has to take the final, and the other main difference between the final exam and the other midterm exams is that the final exam is comprehensive. Now, if you remember, when I looked at the schedule, or you can look at the schedule now if you've got it next to you, which you probably should, each one of those blocks that I called a unit ends in an exam. First midterm exam is the first month, second midterm exam is second month, and so on, each 4 weeks. The first, second, and third midterm exams only cover the material in the unit in which they occur. So for example, the second midterm exam will only cover material from the second unit. The final exam, however, is comprehensive. And what that means is it can cover any material from any lecture throughout the entire course or laboratories. So all of those things, and readings as a matter of fact. So all of those things can be tested. Okay, now, why in the world am I giving you a comprehensive final exam? A lot of students ask that question, and it's a perfectly legitimate question to ask. Here's why. This is a professional level class. We've talked about that before, which means we are not just learning things to jump through a hoop to show that we can learn. What we're doing here is starting to build a base upon which we are going to learn more and more theory and more skills and build these things into something like Dr. Brantley and have that skill set. But you have to have a solid foundation for that. That's what this course is. It builds that foundation. You must take this course with you, because by the time you're done, say in December, and you move on to Ohio State or UCLA or Notre Dame, and you take the next biology level class and you don't remember anything from this class, that's when your professional career ends. You must take this with you, because here's what I know for certain. When you go to ASU or wherever you're going to go, your professor in your 300 level cell biology class is going to assume that you know all of this material. And if you don't, he or she is not going to wait for you. They're going to take off because they're going to have a room full of 100 students that they're going to carry along. And at that point, you either have to learn the material very rapidly at the same time you have to learn more advanced material, or you have to find some other profession. I don't want either of those things to happen. I want you to take this with you. So this is why you have to have this comprehensive exam. Now, the other reason is this. Almost everybody who takes this class at some point takes an exam called the MCAT or the GRE or the PCAT or something like that, the DAT for dentistry. Every single one of those exams is not just comprehensive for one class, but comprehensive for your whole 4 or 5 years of undergraduate. So this is practice for that. So the comprehensive exams, you need to learn how to assimilate all of this material, huge amounts of material, and still be able to take competent exams. So that's the idea. Now, the exam, like I said, is going to be given December 17th. It's required that you take it on that day. If for some reason you cannot, and you already know that you cannot, contact me. When you contact me, make sure you have a valid excuse for why you cannot take it on that day. Valid excuses are listed in the college student handbook. Okay? Let's be clear. Work schedule, other classes, unless there's everybody dumping everything on that day, but other classes, work schedule, vacations, previously bought tickets for vacation, none of those are valid excuses. So we need to come up with some reason why it is you can't take it on that day, otherwise you've got to find a way to take it on that day. The third and final way that you will earn points in the classes is through the laboratory. The laboratory this semester will be done entirely at home. It's entirely online. It will require you to purchase certain things at the store, but nothing dangerous and nothing particularly expensive. There are 12 laboratory exercises in this semester, and there are going to be laboratories every week, every single week, except for weeks where there are exams and Thanksgiving week. Those are the only weeks that we don't actually have laboratories that are due. As we saw earlier, the laboratories are going to be due on Saturday at midnight. And again, they have to be done before midnight. Now again, a warning, these are going to take 3 to 5 hours. So make sure you start with plenty of time so that you can hand it in. Make sure it's done by midnight on that Saturday that it's due. There's only one shot at it. You don't get multiple attempts with the laboratory like you do with the quizzes. You only get one attempt, and that's how it works. So make sure you go through your work very carefully before you submit your final report. The reports are going to be done primarily on Canvas. There will be a series of questions on Canvas, very much like a quiz, and you get to go through a procedure, and then you answer questions about it. You graph data, you analyze the data, and then you write up your report sort of that way. All of them were worth 20 except for one, 20 points that is, except for one. One of them is worth 40. The Mendelian Genetics Lab has a large number of genetics problems associated with it, and so it's worth double the points. Of those, the lowest score will be dropped, so it'll be one of the 20-point labs that is dropped. So again, if you miss a lab, that is not actually going to work. You have to have the labs completed for this class. So unlike the quizzes or the exams, if you happen to miss one, it's not a problem. You happen to miss two, then it's a problem. In the laboratories, every single lab has to be completed. So to pass the class, you must complete every lab. If you complete a lab late, there will be a point deduction for it. Now the labs will close. The labs will close on the date that they're due, on the Saturday at midnight. If you have not completed the lab, you must contact me. Let me know you need the lab reopened and I'll do it. But after that, it'll cost a certain amount of deductions, point deductions. And the rule is 10% reduction for every week late. Now let me explain exactly how that works. The week starts the minute after midnight that it's due. So if, for example, the first lab is due this coming Saturday, say, that Saturday then at midnight is when it's due, and the laboratory will shut down at that time. If you have not completed it and you still need to submit it, it's going to be late. And for every week, it'll be 10 points. So for the next week after it's due, it'll be 10 points off, 10% off. For the next week after that, so the following Saturday, after midnight, the following Sunday, starting the following Sunday, will be 20% off. And then after that, it's 30% off, and so on. So that's how the labs are meant to work. Now, the reason for these deadlines is not arbitrary. The reason for the deadlines is to keep us all on pace. It's required that we get the course done in 16 weeks. There's a lot of material that's going to happen in 16 weeks, especially if you're new to college. This may be quite shocking and quite a bit different than what you're used to. In high school, you have a lot of time to work on stuff, and they give you plenty of opportunities to, redo it and so forth. That's not the way it works at this type of class at a university, which is what we are at a college, but this is a university class. So when you get done with this and you submit it, it's there and it's graded. You won't get any other opportunity for extra credit. You won't get any other opportunity to look at it again. So you have to do your very best work starting the moment you start work on it, so you don't get these other extra chances. Because again, in the profession, you don't get another chance. Somebody wheels somebody in on a gurney into the ER and you're the doc that has to deal with it. You got to get it right the first time. Get used to that. That's how professionals operate. You walk up to a $1.2 million DNA sequencer, you have to get it right the first time. Again, get used to it. So make sure you've got plenty of time, make sure you get everything done, and make sure you get it done on time. That's how professionals operate. So here's a summary of everything that we've just talked about in terms of the grades and the grading policies. Like I said, there's 3 ways that you earn points: through examinations, through quizzes, and through the laboratory. The quizzes, as I said before, there's 28 of them. 2 of them are dropped, each worth 10 points. That's a total of 260 points. The 3 lecture exams are each worth 100 points, but 1 is dropped, so that's a total of 200. The final exam is also 200 points. It cannot be dropped. And then in the laboratory, if you count up all of those points that I had mentioned, you'll get 240. So the total then is 900 points. To get a grade in this class, you have to earn some percentage of these points. And those percentages are a grading scale that has been set by the students that came before you. There's no curving in this class except for what the students before you have already done. So here's the grading scale. To get an A in this class, you have to earn between 810 and 900 points in the class. That's not between 90 and 100%. A B, any student who earns between 702 and 809 points, that's between 78 and 89, will get the B. If a student earns between 594 and 701 points, that's a 66 to a 77, they will earn a C. 450 to 593, that's a 50 to 67%, is a D, and anything less than 50%, 450 points, will earn an F. And that is it. Those are the points that we have. There are no extra credit assignments because, again, there's a fairness doctrine and there's a professionalism doctrine. Professionals don't get second chances. They don't get these things that are just handed to them. They have to make it work, which means this: your attitude when you start the class needs to be this. These are the points. You need to go after them. Earn them. The extra credit is not going to be there. It's not going to save you. To do well in this class requires one thing: effort and work to get all of those points that you can, that you know are coming. And that's it. That's it. That's all it takes is effort. So I'm going to guarantee you 2 things. This is an online class, and you're going to work. It's going to be as hard, or actually in some ways harder, than a face-to-face class, because it's up to you. You have to do the work. In order to master this material, you really have to put in the effort, because I'm not there to drive you on a daily basis. Although I kind of am. I'm still going to be there on a daily basis, but we're not face-to-face. We're not together, and I can't go and coach and literally walk up to you and talk to you and have you tell me what's going on. So you've really got to put that effort in. The class is hard, so you're going to put that effort in if you're going to be successful. All right, so that's the first guarantee. We're going to work hard. But I'll also say this: there's one person taking this class online this term who's going to work hardest, and that's going to be me. Every single day I'm going to work on this class. Even though I've got other obligations, I've got research to do, I've got other classes to teach, but this one is very important to me. And so I'm going to put an enormous amount of effort. What am I going to be doing? I'm going to be reading, I'm going to be writing new notes, I'm going to be updating all of the exercises constantly doing those things. I'm going to be grading all of your material, I'm going to be answering your questions, I'm going to be doing everything I can to help you. So yes, all of us are going to work. We are all going to put in effort in this class. And it is life-changing. If you take the professional's approach and the professional's attitude, your life will change. You'll gain control of your life. You'll gain power. You'll gain success. That's the path forward. Trying to work out things in the simplest way, in the minimalist way, or in trying to find ways around it and ways around learning could get you a good grade. Absolutely. There are certainly ways to do that. It's unfortunate because that is not the path to success, and that's our goal, is success. A grade is not success. Getting into medical school, getting into graduate school, getting into professional schools of some sort, pharmacy school, nursing school, whatever it happens to be, that is success. Working around learning, you can't cheat or BS your way into these professions. You just can't. It's set up so that you can't. Because there's no way that anyone is going to let a person who doesn't know what they're doing into a room where someone is dying and try and help them. There's no way they're going to let somebody who doesn't know what they're doing walk up to a $1.5 million DNA sequencer and try and use it. The goal is to make yourself powerful, make yourself intellectually powerful, which means you need to put out your very best effort every single day. You need to be relentlessly intelligent every single day. You need to be competent every single day. So when you attempt any quiz, exam, or laboratory in this class, put in your best effort. Do everything you can to show the world exactly how intelligent and how competent you are. It's up to you, not me. It's up to you to do that. You're the only one who can.